Call the meeting to order. Welcome, everybody, and we'll do a roll call. Keith Allgood.
Present.
Donna Boggs. Absent. Tony Campbell.
Here.
Gary Corlew.
Here.
Tom Cullen.
Here.
Tony Gross.
Here.
Leanne Ferguson.
Here.
Mike Patno, that's me, here. Chuck Slater. Absent. Okay, we have a quorum. Non-voting staff, we have Sharon Armstrong, John Lawless, and Jennifer No. Welcome, Jennifer. Okay, the minutes are in your packet. They've been circulated. Any motions on the minutes?
Motion to approve minutes from April 13th.
Okay. All right. Any discussion or corrections? All right. All in favor of approving the minutes? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, minutes are approved. Confirmation of the agenda. You have the agenda in front of you. FYI, I think I'm the first person on it, and mine is being postponed because I was missing a signature. So I won't be on the agenda today.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I would like to propose an addition to the agenda. The lots at 173 and 177 Loudon Hills Road, changing them, rezoning from R1 to C3.
C3?
C2.
C2.
I'm sorry, C2, thank you.
Okay. And you have the information on that? Somebody here to present that?
Yes, that is
Okay.
correct.
Okay. All right. So do I have a motion on the agenda
Move we approve the agenda.
With-
As
Second.
amended.
with that amended? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, so we've approved the agenda with that amendment, the item being the lots 173 and 177 on Liven Hills Road. Request to rezone from R1 to C2, right?
Correct.
Okay, so item 6 is me. As I said, that's postponed. So item 7, relocation of existing structure to lot 128 West Kingston Springs Road. Who's here to present that?
Yes, I am.
Okay, welcome.
Welcome. My name's Chris Stewart. I've lived in Kingston Springs from 99 to 2012. I'm a real estate agent, and I've been a real estate agent since 99, and I have flipped houses out here since then. That was my first house I flipped, and out here I've done 34 houses that I've bought, fixed up, and sold. So I just wanted to give you my background, and I can give every one of you one of these, but this is just what my plans are as far as who I am and
It's a new home for
what I do.
Thank you.
I just opened a new real estate office here, and so my plan is to, since the item that number I saw on the list of agenda was to number 8, the BP gas station, we'll do away with my office where it is currently. I moved into BJ's office, and she's working with me. So my plan is to purchase the lot at 128 West Kingston Springs Road and move a structure there from Edmondson Pike. And you have the survey, the plat survey in front of you.
There's larger copies in front of you as well.
Here's a copy of
Got it?
the,
Okay.
here's a copy of the lot.
And this is where you say this is Lawrence.
It's next to the grocery store, to the left of the grocery store.
Have you looked into the engineering and getting it up that driveway?
I talked to the Don Toothman. Are you familiar with him?
No.
He said he's looked at it, he can get up to it. What?
Okay, I was just curious. That's
If not, I
pretty
can
steep drive.
come in the back way through Bob's property. I have to get permission
Ah.
for Bob. Bob Kraft.
Wasn't there a driveway there at one time?
There is, it
Yeah.
still is.
There was a home there, and there was a
Yeah.
driveway
Right.
there. So
Mr.
then,
Dodson lived there.
you know, the first time you go up and you think, this is steep, just like I'm from Mississippi. I went up Mary Log Lane, and I thought, wow, it's a steep hill.
Okay,
But, my car doesn't bottom out, my truck doesn't bottom out, so I don't know about the car, I don't have a car then. But, I will probably plan on widening that. There's already a driveway up and a
Right.
parking lot or a driveway that goes over to where the
The house
home
was,
sat. And
yeah.
I'm planning on putting my office where the home sat pretty much, because I can take advantage of the water
Water and
and
sewer.
the sewer that's there. And not take up the whole lot, because I'll plan down the road to do something else with the lot. And for sure, if I do something else with the lot, the driveway will have to be, with the amount of traffic that I'm planning on having up there, it'll be me, BJ, and Kathy, the secretary. Not a lot of traffic in a real estate office, now that everybody does everything at their house. I usually go to people's house, they don't come to me usually. But, I know that, I see that there, you know, would be some concern maybe during the winter time, but there's salt and
Well, I was
whatnot.
just curious about how to get a house up that driveway.
Oh, yeah, the house may be an issue, but he said he could do it, so.
All right, well,
He
that's
moved
your problem.
30 houses from over at White Bluff Road, or White Bridge Road. When they did that expansion, he moved
Yeah.
30 houses over there, so I think he, if he can't get at that driveway, we'll figure it out.
Just holler at me, I'd like to come watch.
Okay.
so, Sharon, I see the number 2 item requires meeting with building official. Is that something that has to take place before we make a recommendation on it?
Not, that's a
Okay.
notation for the applicant.
Okay,
Because the structure is being moved in, it will have to meet commercial building code.
okay,
Because the use of the lot is appropriately zoned for the use.
okay,
The structure itself, as I understand it from Mr. Stewart, is a residential structure. So there are different requirements for the use of a residential structure over a commercial structure. So you will have to meet with the building official if there are any retrofits required for the structure itself.
okay,
The house was once owned by Mr. Edmondson. I was kin to the Edmondson Pike people. So it is an older house.
mhm,
I have a picture. As it is, it's got a front porch on it and a back porch, and it's brick. But I'm in the process of, one, lowering the roof down 3 feet, which I've already done, and getting it ready to move. So the brick will come off, and it will basically be the size of a small double-wide trailer, pretty much 44 feet wide, 24 feet deep. Then the porch that I put on will look, this is what in my head I'll have in mind of doing. It'll be roughly 20 feet wide.
Will the structure need to be sprinkled when being moved in?
It depends on the decision of the state fire marshal, how many occupancy has over meets that load. That is a building code that traditionally when you reuse a small structure, when the occupancy rate is lower than 10, they do not require retrofit to sprinkle.
I was already planning on doing that, so
What
I'm not-
about our
I've already
building?
talked to the Cumberland Fire, I think is the people, and I told him what the size of the house was, the square footage, and he said that meter is sufficient for that type property. Or for that type, that size house.
okay. Any other questions for Mr. Stewart?
You gonna come in 70 or the interstate?
His plan is to come, I think, Old Hickory all the way to Old Hickory, all the way down to 70, and then come 70, I guess, to Pegram, and then come. So as it is, I think he's 3 foot high off the ground, and then my house was, I've lowered it down. It needs to be 17 or 18, below 18 feet. And with what I've lowered the roof, because the roof was a steep roof, and when I move it out here, the roof will become a metal roof instead of shingle, which was on it now, but it'll be metal.
Right.
And the exterior, I was going to talk to you, is the exterior of the house need to be brick on the front, or?
It needs to meet the design standards because it does fall under that. So that's something we'll work through once you get a construction plan for the house, once it's set in place. Right now, we're looking at your site plan, the location of the building, zoning, the grade of the driveway, those types of things. So since the house isn't on the lot, those things can't be disclosed during the we see the house. If the house qualifies as a historic structure, That's something that the design review committee will have to look at, because there are some restrictions and limitations at the state level for what you can do with historic structures. So for the purposes of discussion tonight, we're only looking at whether or not the relocation of the structure is appropriate, whether or not site plan meets your requirements, landscape meets your requirements. But I did note on the review, as you can see in your packet, that we will need to have a discussion with the design review committee, because everything has to go before that committee if it's moved in or constructed.
The house is currently rented to two nurses in Brentwood, so it's moving condition. Hopefully when they move it, it'll still be moving condition. There will be some adjustments to the bathroom to meet handicap.
Yeah.
Just wider door and probably move the sink around the corner, but there's plenty of room to do that, so that's the kind of stuff I'm used to doing anyway.
And I appreciate all the questions that you're asking, but a number of these are related to construction codes and not to the site plan that's presented for your approval
Okay.
tonight. All of those plans will be reviewed. We will have to meet handicap accessibility as noted. The grade on the driveway will be largely decided with the location of that building, because it is somewhat of a steep hill. Because it is a commercial site, public will have access, even though Mr. Stewart meets his clients at their house. If they come by his office, that driveway has to be navigable. So that's something that we're not at that point yet. That's in the construction phase and the grading phase of the property. So
And the landscape, does it fit in the construction phase?
the landscaping is noted on your plan.
Yeah,
You
I see
have
it.
that. I
Yeah.
have, and I had a short presentation to go through with you to tell you what was looked at, what we determined, and what we've done next for this project.
The driveway was used, previously used as a residential, so it was
Right.
usable, it's usable. I have my trailer on the back of my truck, a lawnmower, 16-foot trailer, and it goes,
Yeah. So did you want to make some comments? or-
Yes, sir, I would. As you know, he is requesting to relocate an off-site residential structure to an existing lot that is appropriately zoned to establish a commercial real estate office. The property is zoned C2. It is not in a regulated flood zone. Site plan has been submitted. You do have it in front of you. I have reviewed it. You have the planner's comments. It was turned around twice, I think. The surveyor who did the site plan is very, very responsive. He turned everything around in a couple of days. It does meet your zoning regulations, including landscaping, so all of that has been addressed. But I made a note on the plan review, and also for you to know that the building is subject to all building codes and inspections and approval at the point that he's ready to relocate. We also will acquire a copy of the permit from the state. You will need a state permit, or your driver, whoever's delivering this building, will
yeah, he
require
told
a
me he has
copy
to
of
pull
that
in
permit.
Cleveland
for the
County,
file.
Davis County, Chief County.
And we'll require a copy of that, and then at the point the house is located on-site stabilized, then it's structurally sound enough for the building inspector to go in and determine what needs to be done to meet the building codes. So any questions on that? The driveway is somewhat steep, however, unfortunately, it meets your grade requirements.
Does it?
It does. I mean,
I'm anxious to watch
Oh, I
them
know,
pull
you're
it out
asking,
there.
you're asking as a practical matter rather than as a regulatory matter. But I would advise Mr. Stewart, as he locates this building, your driver needs to ensure he can make it up that hill, because the backslide with that building load would be magnificent if it landed on the street. But
He's looked at it, so.
So he's
If
pretty
it-
sure he can
If
do it.
it's that questionable, we can figure out a different way to get it.
And that, of course, is at the risk of Mr. Stewart and the member of the house. They have to be bonded, they have to be insured, they have to be licensed. So if there should be an issue with structure, that would be their issue to take care of.
It's $15,000 to move the house, so I'm taking $5 already.
You know, it's being done in a lot of jurisdictions and somewhat successfully in some. I was present several years ago when they moved a 16,000 square foot mansion, loaded it on a barge across an inlet, and then deposited it on land on the other side, and then sold the house. But this one does meet the H standard as presented, the storage structure. So design review committee, along with construction plans, will be presented back to the planning commission for review once the house is on the lot.
Once the house is on lot, okay. So, all we're doing today then is approving the relocation to that lot for commercial use based on this drawing.
That's correct. You're approving the site plan, the relocation of the structure, you're acknowledging the C2 zoning of the site itself, and the acknowledgement that he will come back for construction, and he will come back if he has any issues.
Okay, any other questions for Sharon?
If in the future he wants to do something else with that, the rest of that lot, what is that going to entail as far as we're concerned?
If he wanted to locate any other development on that lot, he would have to amend site plan, come back before the planning commission. Any change in the size of the structure, use of the lot, co-location of any other business, if he wanted to subdivide the lot, but any change to the site plan, once it's approved, has to come back before the planning commission.
Okay. Anything else? So, do we have a motion on this item?
So moved.
Real quick, once this facility or this building is on this particular site, and say something happens and he never comes before a design review, what happens with the structure then?
He will not be able to get a permit or
Right,
certificate of occupancy.
so it's just there, it's still there, occupying this area. But I'm sure this isn't gonna happen, I'm just asking.
If that happens, and it has happened on properties in the past,
Right.
it's not been my experience with Mr. Stewart, I have worked with him before on projects. But if a property, the structure is abandoned on a property, you send a letter of notice, it's abandoned. If they do not move forward after that 30-day period, then it's simply go to codes court, they get a demolition order, the structure's demolished, and the property's lien. That's the process.
3 or 4 years later,
So
structure
it
is,
behooves the applicant not to abandon the structure on the lot.
Fantastic.
So,
That's just for my education, thank you.
are you gonna be leasing this lot? I see the owner here.
I haven't closed yet, I'm waiting on your approval to close so I can
Okay.
close and then move forward.
So you're buying the lot?
I'm buying the lot, so
All
it'll
right,
be.
I missed that. Okay, so we have a motion.
That we approve.
I apologize, Chairman, to the question that you just asked. We always require an applicant who is not the subject owner of the property to acquire either a contract or a notarized statement from the property owner giving them permission to come before this body so that everything's clean and neat.
So that's happened.
That's in
Yes.
Kingston.
All right. So we have a motion and a second. Who seconded it?
I second it.
Okay, right now. So, any other discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, the motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right, so we're on item 8, which is removal and renovation of BP service station. And we have that in front of us. Okay?
we do, that's this.
Ready for me?
Welcome.
I'm Adam Letzinger, I'm the civil engineer for this project. And what we're proposing to do, this is Russell Hayes, they're the contractor. If we're successful in getting approval through all of the approval process, we can be the contractor. We're planning on demolishing the existing BP station that is on Living Hills Drive and the house that's behind it. And then we're proposing a new 4,600 square foot structure, sort of pushing that back on the lot for construction of 6 new gas canisters for that site.
And it still has the access to the back. What is that, a 50-foot to the property
There's a
behind?
50-foot access even along the back of our property, along the, if you're
The
facing the
side.
site, the left side of our property.
Right.
The owner is telling us that he has an agreement with the Independence Trust Company that owns the property in the back for us to use that and build a drive on that side of that property line. But he's working through the channels with the trust yet and does not have that in writing yet.
I was gonna say, I've talked to the trust, and I don't think that's happened.
Right, so according to what we told him and informed him that we need that in writing before we'll ever get final approval. According to him, he's working on that.
Well, it's a pretty important thing for the town, because that's very good property behind it to be developed, and
That's right.
I'd hate like hell to see it locked in.
Well, we wouldn't be able to lock them in and keep them from getting access. It would help us to have access onto their property for our side, but they've already got access out to Logan Hills. I think a lot of people don't understand that this property that BC is on is not that whole front
Oh,
end.
I understand that.
Okay. So we wouldn't be, there's nothing that we would do to them that would keep them from accessing their property. But they could tell us no, and it would hinder our site development plan.
Well, as I understand it, y'all want to use that as a driveway to the back side of this, if,
On the left side of it,
right.
to the back of our building. But we absolutely have to have their permission
Is that on this side?
before we can do that.
Yeah, it's on this side.
Actually, we absolutely have to have their permission in writing before we can
There
do
you
that.
go.
Let's say that. And it is our understanding that we're in the process of getting that done. But at this time, they have not produced paperwork for us to see that.
So
Yeah,
you will have a total of how many pumps under that canopy?
6 pumps. And back to the access drive, we can actually build our site without getting that
I
permission.
understand that.
But it will really help our site from a grading perspective if we get that permission.
Okay.
This here, is that inside the lot?
He's concerned about the parking.
There's
for the
parking over on the
Mexican
side, yeah, the
restaurant. That's
Mexican
on this
restaurant?
property, right?
Yeah, this is our property line,
Okay, so it is on this
So
this
all of
property
our
line.
parking that we have is actually on our lot.
Yeah.
And the Mexican restaurant is up here, and actually, they had 5 striped spaces over onto this.
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you look at this now, it's all asphalt out here. So
Right.
what we'd be doing is cleaning a lot of this up. So all of these areas outside of our parking now will be grass. So grass and landscape. So it'll make it look a whole lot better. And according to what is striped, I know that everybody sort of parks wherever out here right now. It's sort of a
Yeah, they
mess.
do, yeah.
But according to what was striped, the Mexican restaurant will be losing about 5 spaces.
That's all?
According to what's striped.
They don't use these spaces here?
These spaces don't exist right now.
Oh,
Now, they may use them, but
Yeah,
they're not
use-
striped.
Well, they're not
Okay.
striped, but
Yeah.
Right. So I don't know how many spaces they actually, I don't know what
Right.
everybody
Right.
uses and who
Well, that's
uses.
but it's on the lot, it's on your lot,
So-
or it's on the lot you're talking about.
So we're trying to, part of what we'll do is correct that situation where
You're
we've
gonna tear
got,
up the asphalt,
mess
put
up
grass in.
that's right. So we'll sort of correct that situation where everybody parks all over the place, you know.
well, that's the other question I had is how this fits in with redoing of Lieben Hills Road and
The multimodal grant?
the multimodal grant.
There's an easement that shows up on the survey for widening the road.
Well, it's
So
not so
we're
much,
off of that. So
they're-
it won't hurt us if they do that.
but they're gonna, as
They
I
have
understand
curbs out
it, part of the purpose of this project is to cut down on those big broad areas of
It's
cars
gonna
coming
change,
out.
it'll
Right.
change these
Yeah, he's
entrances and
got,
exits.
they have areas of grass built into these with smaller, areas.
And so instead of having one big wide curb cut across the whole front of our property, ours will cut down where we have one on our property, and then we'll have a shared one with the neighbor
And
that's
that
behind us
50
that you're talking
okay.
about. You want me to show you that?
No, I can see it.
Okay.
So does that integrate with this multimodal plan? Is it
Do we know?
consistent?
It does. I
Okay.
have several comments on this project.
Okay.
When we get to that point.
All right.
To
In
walk
other
you
words,
through
we're
it.
gonna need to shut up at her comments.
She says it really nicely. Does anybody else have any questions at this point?
Don't you dare.
Okay,
Your
Sharon.
pleasure.
Are
Are we ready?
Take it away.
It is appropriately zoned. It's not in a flood area. The site and grading plans are somewhat extensive, but they do fall within the perimeters of what you allow for site and grading. You will be required to furnish a patcher report at some point on that demolition.
For-
Patcher
oh,
report.
yes.
Site and grading, before any permits can be issued for reconstruction. On the site plan, I noted that there was one dimension given for a parking space, and it's an 8-foot width. Those will need to be recalculated and done 10 feet by 20 feet, because that's what you require in your zoning. So that is on sheet C 4.0. So we'll need to note that all parking spaces are required to be 10 by 20.
Now, those 8-foot ones are the handicap ones.
Right.
So for an 8-foot space, you'll have an 8-foot loading zone and then another 8-foot space. So for actually for each handicap space, you'll actually have 16 feet
Right.
of space.
But I need for that site plan to show that width of that each individual space at 10 feet, and then you can show the loading area in between. I don't mind if you reduce the loading area as shared between the two parking spaces, but I
Okay.
need you to show that width on that one.
Okay,
at
I
10
think I
feet.
understand.
Okay. And then, on C 3.0, in your notes, note number 8,
Yeah.
it refers to the city of Paris. If you could change that to the town of Kingston Springs.
Yes.
As to the easement is noted as a restriction on the deed. It is somewhat non-descriptive in its content. It refers to chains and fees. So
Let me speak to that. Actually, the easement that you're talking about is on the rear of the property.
That's
It's
correct.
not along the side where we're trying to get it.
There
So-
is no notation on the deed for the easement described on this property. It's somewhat, as I understand, sort of a verbal handshake agreement.
Apparently so, yes.
At this particular time. In order for the function of this site plan to work properly, there will be occasion when that easement will become somewhat important to both parties. So if they're in the process, as I understand it, of working out that handshake agreement into something more formal, which will require them to have a written description of the easement itself, front to back, width, length. Keep in mind that that may be used at some point as a connection point for other
Street.
development in the rear.
Right.
So that will need to be reduced to writing, the deed will need to be amended, and there will need to be an agreement between the parties for the shared use of that easement. They restrict easement use, and that's something for you to explain to your client for the future. They allow one additional lot to be served from a permanent shared access easement, meeting city requirements for length, width, and all of those things. So in the future, if the adjacent property owner were to subdivide or do something else to his lot, then that easement could no longer be used by your client, because they only allow one shared use from that easement. So as they enter into this agreement, if I were your client, I would request a non-development agreement on the other lot, but that's between your client and the other property owner. But if in the future they develop that lot into more than one use, you would lose that access easement under the regulations. And fourth, I would recommend that these issues be resolved for the easement access before the site plan is approved. If they're in the process, that can be done with coming back before this body. It can be done as a staff review and approval. It's at your pleasure how it's reviewed and reduced and represented.
I think that's a pretty important issue, in that that's a sizable tract of land behind there. It's quite developable. It provides access, or could provide access back to the mobile home park. It's just, I think we need to try to make sure that it's done in a manner that
I think
provides for future development.
It does, and what will limit the applicant's use of that lot is if the subject property, the adjacent property is divided
Yeah.
in any form, then that would negate his access, because they only allow one lot to be served off of shared
How
access.
wide is a standard street?
Pardon?
How wide is a standard
The
street?
standard street is 30 feet. The reason, the rationale for the reservation of 50 feet is because you commonly, particularly if there's potential for subdivision in the future or additional location of commercial use, it's a reservation for utility. You put water on one side, sewer on the other. And so that's the reason why that reservation is required.
Well, I
50
just-
feet.
I think from the standpoint of the city, that we're interested in future development of that line behind there is important to the community. We're somewhat limited by hills and all, and commercially, that's pretty attractive property.
This is not really gonna be affecting this project if we don't, if the owners do not work something out. The grading, we're needing to do grading.
Right, I
On
understand.
that adjoining property. Once the grading is cut down in the back, then if they, like you were talking about, if something happens, this site's still functional. clean out.
We could actually take that drive out. We would have to build a little bit more retaining wall on the left side, but we would still be able to function.
This agreement with this other property is basically to stop from building a retaining wall that would obstruct them and this lot, is what this agreement would be for.
Well, it sounds like if this is developed in the future and then you lose that use, you'll have to build that retaining wall anyway. Is that what I'm hearing?
No, the grading will be done then.
Okay.
And also, you gotta understand that the lot behind us actually owns more frontage than what we're requesting for our easement there. They own enough frontage that they can put in a city street size.
Okay. So are you saying the easement, the primary purpose of the easement is for completing the project and
Yes.
not for the use of the property in a completed project, once it's
We
completed?
wanna use it, let me say that, we do wanna use it, we wanna be able, they use it now, but one thing that is hard to visualize with this is the way that it's used now, the building is so farther up front that there's not a grade issue. And as you push the building back, the lot slopes up.
Yeah.
And so for us to be able to use it like it is used now, we need to cut that side down. So we
Yeah.
have to get permission for them to grade on their lot, or we're gonna have to build a retaining wall right at our property line.
So I'm just trying to follow. I think you want a short-term use. Your primary purpose is to use that easement during the construction, right?
We would like, if we had our druthers, to use it. for-
Because I'm trying to reconcile, if this is developed and we lose use of that easement,
Can
then
you
where
still
are
move
you
forward?
and what do you
I
need
mean,
to
is
do?
it okay at that point? Say that land does get developed behind there and you can't use that easement anymore? Are you still okay with it?
Our site will still
Are
be
you done?
functional.
It'll be
Right,
fine,
they
it'll
can-
be
they can go
functional.
into the other-
Do you have to, so you don't have to have it.
We have enough space
The
on our site.
Pecels are
We have
interested
traffic,
in having
two-way
that
traffic
But they don't
circulation.
because they want
We have
to
the-
put a drive-through window.
In all actuality, if
But they don't have to use
this
it if it were to get.
doesn't work out with agreement and they try to build a street later, it's gonna hurt them almost as much as it's gonna hurt this property because of the elevation change in the rear near that house. It actually, elevation changes.
Yeah, I just want to understand that you're fully functional if this gets developed behind and you lose the use of that easement.
We will be.
Okay.
But if I understood correctly, you would then go in and build the retaining
Let's-
wall that you're not doing now.
No, they
Okay,
wouldn't
let's
have to
say
build a
this.
retaining wall.
Hold on. If they don't give us this easement, we'll have to come back and redevelop our plan around that side and build a retaining wall.
Right.
If they do give us the easement, we can go in and we can do the grade work that we need to do without having to build a retaining wall on that side. If at that point the property develops behind us and we lose use of that easement, we will still be okay, because we have already done our grading work.
And you'll be gone.
That's right. I mean, essentially, and the other fact is, whether it is nice for us to have this easement for access on that side, for vehicular access, but it is not necessary for us to make it. Okay, does that make sense?
Yeah, I hear it from a construction standpoint. From a construction standpoint, it's a short-term, It's
when you're
project
actually
focused.
Running the business.
Yeah.
This would actually.
Right.
I just wonder about the owner who's going to operate that. Are they thinking of using that for a drive-through or something else that they're?
They'll have a drive-through, but it will be on their property. See, and the other thing that they would like to do with it is it will be a drive for people behind the building to come out and around. But if you close that off, they would still have two-way circulation back around the other side of the building for it to work. So.
Well,
it's-
some of us have been burned by, it's easier to ask forgiveness than permission.
Well, and that's
So we're
why we're asking for, written approval from the property owners behind us before we do this.
Well, I assume that's
Because
going
this
to
is
have
not
to
really
be.
one of those things that we could ask for forgiveness for if we went out there and built a drive and did all this grading on somebody's property and they didn't like it.
Oh,
We
you
would
can't
be in
believe
bad
what
trouble.
we even asked forgiveness for. So.
Yeah,
We don't step across property lines without paper.
right.
Okay.
Where are we then? In other words, in essence, until you have the paper signed documents and all, we can't approve this site plan.
It would be my observation, I did a little bit of time on site a few days ago. It would be my observation that he is correct. They can accomplish this project without use of that easement, but construction would be somewhat very much more difficult and costly to do so. It is also my understanding that the property owner of the BP is in discussion with the adjacent property owner to acquire written permission to use that. My recommendation would be to set this to the side, see if they can work out that agreement. If not, it's going to slightly alter what they presented to you, and which would change the site plan, especially the grading plan, which is a part of the site plan. It's just one sheet and a total number of sheets.
That's
for
the
entire site
retaining wall
plan.
that they discussed.
So if they can't acquire that agreement,
Then it's
it's
different.
going to affect that sheet and the way they do grading, and it's going to affect the grade, contours, and a number of other things. It may also have some impact on the placement of parking spaces and utilities. So that would be my recommendation. And again, that can be accomplished by them, if they're turned down, resubmitting site grading plans and other documents for review to the next planning commission, or it can be done with a staff review to tell you that all things are resolved and moving forward. That's your choice. It can be done either way.
Because everything else outside of that agreement meets all of our requirements.
There are
The
several
three things that
small
you've listed, the small things that you've listed.
that you will have to correct on the site plan itself for parking space for that handicap section. And if you could just put a blanket note that all parking spaces are 10 by 20, that would be very helpful for them in their review. Changing the city of Paris to the city of Kingston Springs, and then working out the access easement. But other than that, the site plan was,
Gotta watch them engineers.
Hey, copy and paste.
happens to everybody occasionally.
So-
I'm curious about whether, have you looked at the tanks that are there now, is there,
They're coming out.
and will you have to do some remediation there as far as,
We won't know.
you
until
won't
they
know
come
till you
out.
dig them out?
Should not be any remediation, but you never know until they're.
Well, just about everywhere up there has had problems, so I can't remember whether that one's been
I
dug
would
up or
hazard
not.
a guess, Mr.
Huh?
Campbell. I would hazard
Well,
a guess
now,
until
that
they know the
actually-
soil, they won't know.
It's got remediation going on now.
Yeah, it's
Is it?
actually got
Okay.
monitoring wells on it
No,
now.
it's actually got a remediation building.
Yeah, that's right, that's right.
Oh, okay, well, I
That
can't,
little building behind the convenience store now is a remediation. The state's already,
been there and,
it's a building there, that small building out back is, I don't know the exact term for it, but it's cleaning the side up.
all right. Well, I was curious, that's,
Yeah, but the existing tanks from what we have, I say bid, this is went on so long, so much change, and what we talked about is kind of out the window now with the owners, but those new tanks, this will be a 100% new site.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but when they pull the old tanks out, they'll pull soil samples.
I'm sure
from under
that-
them and send them off.
They
as well.
do, that's actually a requirement for the reinstallation of pumps, so you can't get pumps reinstalled until you pull that soil sample, which then has to be sent to the state lab and reviewed. But those are kind of construction-based questions, but they won't know.
I wouldn't even put the tanks back in the same hole. I mean, that kind of puts us in a sticky situation with it, knowing that it had.
all right, so where are we off asking
Make a
them
motion
to
to put it off.
To
till
make
next
their,
time.
make
Yeah.
these modifications and then
bring it back?
resubmit it after this, correct?
Once there's a signed agreement about the easement, so we know, is that the, is there a question?
What about acquiring the property next to them?
You mean
Have
like
they
actually buying
attempted to, yeah, or any piece of it, is that even,
I
hasn't
don't
even been
know.
attempted, it's just,
It's been one of these deals where the owner has said, and he's right, they have used this for many, many years, and that they've had an agreement that they can use it. So I don't think that they can acquire it very easily because of the structure of the trust,
right.
and which is partly why it's taken so long to get. They have told us that everyone that is involved with the trust has agreed that we can use it, but getting everybody together and getting all the legal documentation together is kind of a
You
challenge.
believe they all
Right.
agree?
So, and then this
We're
site,
taking somebody else's information Yeah, we're thinking somebody else's
This
word
is-
Right.
too.
Okay.
So-
And this site plan for you guys is, and for them, is the most functional, the way this is done.
That's correct.
As opposed to the retaining wall, which would be not as functional and possibly less aesthetically pleasing.
Right.
Okay.
And in actuality, if we get this permission to do this grading work, we will actually help the property behind us. Because once you get past where our building is, the site goes up quite steeply, and we'll grade quite a bit of that down. So,
I knew where that was.
It's right there, it's right against the motel.
Goes all the way back.
And it accesses all that property. I don't know how many acres, there's two
Right-
tracks back
Right
there.
now, they actually barely own just the north, not south. The south end, the interstate side of the building, the property line is really close to the end of the building now, of where Mr.
Yeah, Patel,
Tail. Where the existing building is, but when you go out there and
Right.
look at that, you have to bear in mind that where the existing building is now is not where it's gonna be.
The new building is
you
back.
need to
quite a bit back.
understand that the building that's there now was owned, the guy who owned it owned all of that property back there. This is what's been whittled out of it since then.
So is it, we need to make a motion to table it for the next,
So they need
I would,
signatures, right?
if the applicant consents to defer, you can do that. You can defer it to the next planning commission, or you can assign it to staff review. It's entirely up to you.
But the issue is that for staff review, it sounds like staff review if they get the easement approved.
it'd be all three
In
things.
staff review, they would have to address all four comments. They would have to change the dimensions for the parking space, change the notation on C4 sheet or C3 sheet. They would have to produce a deed giving them, a deed
Okay.
amendment, giving them permanent use of that access easement. And they would have to get a signed agreement for its use.
Okay.
Let me-
So-
Can I ask it was our understanding that this was just our first planning commission meeting, and we would have an additional planning commission meeting.
That is
after.
correct.
We would sign it.
So could we maybe get the staff approval for this one and then make sure that we got it all done on the final?
No.
Because we're gonna have to come back anyway, if I'm understanding your process right. We still have to go to design review for the building,
Right. but
and then we
that's-
have to,
That's not before this body design review.
right, the
Site
difference,
plan has
but we
to-
still have to come back for a final planning commission
You
approval.
do.
Back before you
Final
guys.
We can have it
construction
So we'll
plans
be
and
back.
things.
So we'll be back one way or the other, so what we would prefer, if we have our choice, is that you approve us contingent upon the staff review, and then let us come back to the final. But that's the only.
I don't vote for anything contingent.
This
I've
is a
been burned.
non-contingency. The request I'm making to them is to allow the staff to include your changes for your next submission.
And obviously,
Once
if
you-
they can't
once
get
you
those, it has to come back before us
obtain
anyway
them.
because the site plan changes.
Right.
Yeah.
So
So,
if they meet those three things, it's as is. If not, they have to come back before us anyway.
so we're making a motion then for staff review of these changes listed here,
That is correct.
if that's the motion we're making. However, if they cannot get the easement, it's a whole new submission
They will
because
have
it's
to
a new
bring
site
you
plan.
All the documents and this.
So if that's the motion we want to have, is that what you just gave us?
It is.
Your project is an existing site, so it does not have to go to its
I
preliminary.
know you're not going to second
This
it.
is retrofit. of an
I do make a
existing
motion
site.
that if they provide all three things, that staff, it's just those three. If not, they have to come back before us anyway.
Okay, so
Right.
that's,
This is just gonna expedite this portion. If they don't get it, they
Doesn't
gotta
matter.
do it all
Then it's a new
over
site
again
plan.
anyway, so.
Correct.
Why come back and do this again?
was there any other, so assuming this happened, was there any other concern about it as it stands?
No, I mean, they'll come back for the design review, that's when we get to talk about the lights and the signage and all that good fun stuff.
That's correct.
Because everything else meets our requirements. It's only those three items.
Okay,
I
so
know
that's,
Mr.
We'll make that
Campbell
motion.
is very reluctant
Tony, you'll get to sink your teeth into them again.
contain contingencies, and I agree with him 99.9% of the time.
I made that agreement many years ago.
But if they cannot acquire those 3 digs,
Then it's a new submission.
Right.
they
Yeah.
have to completely redesign it,
Yeah.
which will set them back 2 months, right?
Right.
That's right.
Yeah, I think this time is a little different.
It's really the only reason that I'm comfortable
Yeah.
making that
Right.
motion,
Okay.
because
I agree. Because
you've
it's
done a
gonna
great
totally
job of
nullify.
laying out these 3 things. It either gets done or it doesn't. If not, it has to come back to us.
So we have Donna's motion.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion? Okay. All in favor of the motion as stated?
Aye.
Any opposed? 1 abstain. Okay.
Thank you, guys.
1 opposed, 1 abstain. Okay. Trying to follow my way. Thank you. So, do we want to take care of this additional item before we do the staff report?
Yes.
So, this was the property on Liven Hills Road, or Lubin Hills Road, depending on who I talk to that day. So,
Live in here.
Liven Hills Road.
You can make it correct that clarification.
I thought about it. Joe Long's property.
Thank you.
Is it? Yeah. Hopefully
Sweet
not for
tea.
long.
Where is this?
Weren't they in Pilgrim?
Calorie
Sweet
free.
teas?
I'm
I
Terry
don't know.
Chandler, and that's my husband Steve. Pardon his look, he's growing a crazy beard.
Amen.
I'd like to thank you for considering our application for rezoning these properties from R1 to C2. I just want to make clear that we do not own this property yet. What happens here and the approval of getting this rezoned is what's going to determine whether we buy this property or not. There were other properties that we saw for sale in other locations that we couldn't afford in this town or were purchased already, and other towns, but we prefer to have a business in our own community. So we're still not decided on a name, so there's still things up in the air, but it's, right now we're kind of settled on Sweet Teas. And it's going to be located at 173 Lubin Hills Road. There's 2 pieces of property there, 173 and 177. I believe it's 177 that's landlocked. There's no access to the road there. So we'd like them combined and become one property. So, like I said, we don't own the properties yet. The sale is contingent on being rezoned so we can build a restaurant. We're looking at mainly an ice cream place that has some warm, hot food sandwiches.
Can't you have meat and 3? We need a meat and 3.
We may work towards that. We don't want to compete really with the area businesses. We're not going to do pizza because we don't want to hurt, Sky King. We don't want to do alcohol because then we'll compete with the area bars. We want to complement the community. So, again, we want to combine the 2 properties. We want to create a small business that's built to serve the community and bring revenue to the town. We want to beautify this property. I don't know if you know this property, what it has on there, and all the problems that the community has with people breaking in, doing drugs, constantly having to be boarded up. So right now it's residential. We're very close to Interstate 40. It's just over here. This is what's on the property now. So we have a small herb shack there. There's debris, I call it an eyesore. There's another building there with garbage inside. There's an animal cage in the back there. Drug needles, we found in there. And then there's this trailer that's there with things built onto it. There's water that's accumulating in the back of the building that needs to be rerouted. This is the main house. And they say it's got a basement, it really doesn't. It's kind of like a crawl space that's underneath there. And several times people have tried to break into that, and I've actually gotten in, and it's been boarded up, which I consider the risk to safety and possibly fire. And then miscellaneous items that need to be cleaned up as well. So we want to come in and clean all this up and have this removed. And we wanna keep a couple of the sheds that's there. Right now, people have been living in them. Occasionally, there's mattresses in there and blankets. So we wanna use that. We do wanna keep this building here. We're gonna be able to paint some tables and stuff, just do repairs out there. Now, this is all preliminary because we have had anybody help us draw anything up. This is our ideal. We just wanted to give you a vision of what we're thinking of doing so you know what we plan on doing on the property. So, let's see if I can figure this out. Over here, I don't know how to pronounce the name of the building, but it's Cara Ustar or Carastar. She's over here. And so this would be, this has this, can't even see this. But there's a lot here. It's got a fence here and a fence here. That would be our property. So that we would use as this is what we're envisioning, a parking lot, putting some shuffleboards and bocce court there for families to enjoy. This would be the small building right here. And this would be a covered patio that we would want to put garage doors all around, attractive ones, so that most of the year it would be open. It would be an open air thing. And then in the winter or really bad weather, we would close it. And maybe put some tables out underneath the trees. We don't want to clear any of the land. We want to leave all of the trees there.
Well, basically, you're just asking us to rezone that.
Yes.
I make a motion that we, is there any objection from our planner? Is that a problem?
Yes, good objection from the attorney, because there wasn't any notice. The agenda was published on the website, it wasn't on there. If y'all could approve the concept tonight, and then we can come back next month and vote on it at that time.
Well, the problem with voting on it next month, which I applied for this in March 23rd, with all the applications, everything was in, my money was in, and I was told that we were going to be on the agenda today. We have to close on this property on July 3rd, or we lose the property and the money that we put into this. It's no fault of our own that we didn't get put on this agenda. I checked online, I didn't see any agenda of what was going on here today. And I was told that we were gonna have this today. So, I might have to build somewhere else, and I don't wanna do that. I'd rather be in my own community benefiting this town.
Well, even if y'all approve it tonight, it still has to go through the readings of and has to be advertised by the commission. And we
It'll
are
have to go to
required
city commission.
Right,
Yeah.
and have to go through two meetings is what's typically required, and there has to be an advertisement, so it will not be done by July 1st.
July 3rd. What I wanted to do is to get this to go to, I think there's 2 votes that you have to do. Is that what you're talking about? Okay. So we would make it to the next week, I guess it would be. It's next week, the 18th. That's what I was told.
The city commission meeting?
Yes.
The city commission meeting is next week. Would that fulfill the
I was
requirements
told
for
it would make it on
advertising?
there.
The requirements
So 15
that the
days.
15 days, yeah.
referring to are not city requirements. The state requires a notice of advertisement for rezoning at a minimum of 15 days before it's heard by the commission. So in order for that to make the commission meeting next week, it would have had to have been posted. They would have had to have made a recommendation for approval or a non-recommendation of approval of the rezoning to the commission. Then it would have had to have been publicly advertised for 15 days. Those limitations are set by state statute. They're not set by the town. So rezonings can become somewhat contentious. What can occur, I think, tonight is that this is a concept meeting, and you're explaining to them what you want to do, and you don't want to move forward without knowing whether or not what you're proposing to do is going to be warmly received by this body, because they have the power to approve or disapprove the site plan. So what I would suggest is that you can be placed on the June agenda. They can suspend the rules if it's properly advertised for 15 days before the June meeting, and have those readings done back to back if they're inclined to do so. They're not obligated to do so, but they can't do that as long as it's in the advertisement that goes in the newspaper. You're saying that you're going to hear both readings back to back. It has been done. It's not the way that Kingston Springs normally operates, nor is it the way that other jurisdictions operate. But there have been occasions where, because of sensitivity of time, that has occurred. So it would require a number of things. One, it can't go forward to the commission without your recommendation. So you would have to have a special call planning commission meeting, stick a sign in the yard, if you would have to come back 2 weeks from now, 15 days from now, put a sign on the property saying that you're going to consider the rezone so you can make a recommendation for it to even go on the commission's agenda in June. So that would have to occur. You would have to have a planning commission call meeting to entertain this project.
So what we need now is a motion to have a call meeting 2 weeks from.
That would have to be done by this body, and then John will have to place an advertisement, that, depending on how you get it in the newspaper, I think you have to have it by Friday, correct? To go in the next
Tuesday,
Friday.
well, Tuesday for next Friday.
I'm not
Tuesday.
And I think that the best thing to do as far as if this board approves it and it goes in front of the regular board is the Board of Commissioners is to also have a special call meeting.
Commission meeting.
To have the 2 readings if you're trying to do that by the July 3rd date. Because if not, then even if you do the advertising, if you had the planning commission in June and you advertised prior to and had the first vote in June, you wouldn't have the second vote until the meeting in July. I mean, you could have a special call, regular commission board meeting and have that advertised all at one
Can
time.
you handle that, Mayor?
So what we're looking for is staff, because this one somehow slipped through the cracks and didn't make it on the agenda. What we're asking for is staff is it your inclination to consider this project outside of the normal review process? Because we have to meet state requirements regardless of what this body or the commission wishes to do.
Is there an objection to that?
We need a
That-
motion.
Pardon?
We need a motion.
You need a motion?
I'll
and a
motion, but I don't know what to
second,
say.
and a vote for us to proceed based on the expedited schedule.
Well, tell us what to say then, Jennifer.
We need a motion that the board is in favor of this concept, and to have a specially called, meeting, of the planning commission to vote for this.
And we have to
And
waive,
to
we
give
have to waive
notice.
something, right?
Pardon?
Don't we have to waive something for this?
You do,
to happen?
you have to suspend the rules to make that motion.
And we're also requesting, as part of that, we're requesting that the city commission
The
also
city commission
have
will also have to hold a special call meeting.
I move that we suspend the rules.
Second?
Second?
Second.
Didn't say.
You write that down.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. I want to
Didn't
make
say
sure,
contingent.
I want to make sure that you are getting the information you need about how this is working, so you are clear and you're not trying to guess what's happening.
Thank you.
And so, John, you got that?
Yes.
Okay.
We will
Do
make
I
that
have to
happen.
fund that? Do I have to pay for the ad?
We still
You
need
do
a
not.
motion.
That we need one more motion.
Right.
You still need a motion
I
to
motion that we-
schedule the special.
We
call.
scheduled the special meeting.
And we need a date.
Second.
We set this special meeting to, when,
Advertisement goes in Tuesday for publication next Friday.
So it'll be 2 weeks
if I
after
can
that.
swing
It'll have
this,
to be
that's the 19th.
The non-secret meeting.
So you can schedule that,
For 15
special call
days.
meeting on the
June.
following Monday, Tuesday, anytime
okay.
the next week.
is that
So
June?
between
Give us a date.
Monday and Friday of the next week, you need a special call meeting.
That'll be the first week of,
June.
June.
Of June. Does that not
Monday's
have
the
to be
5th.
Published on Friday.
It was published on Friday, run 2 weeks, and then, well, they can have a special call to suspend the rules, but it's still, the zoning notice has to run to the commission, not for them. So you can schedule your special call meeting anytime after the advertisement in the newspaper.
Oh, anytime after it goes in?
It doesn't have to be 2 weeks?
No, that's for the commission,
Okay.
because it has to.
so we want to have it on Thursday, the 25th.
There you go.
I second. That's May 25th, right?
Third, fourth.
Yes.
7 p.m.
May 25th.
You'll need a second. and a
Second.
vote.
It's
Seven,
been seconded.
yeah, 7 p.m. on May 25th. Does that, before we make any motions, is that correct, what we're going for?
We're
Okay.
asking for, and does,
Be here.
I won't be here.
I won't be here.
I mean, I have another commitment that's,
May 25th?
I mean, I'm fine with any day that week. We can make it Tuesday for all I care.
yeah, Tuesday or Wednesday or, those are fine. That's
Why don't we go with
graduation
Tuesday?
week.
Because Tuesday,
Supposed to go to Michigan that day.
So Tuesday,
The
May
23rd?
23rd.
Tuesday that
The
week.
23rd?
Yeah, and that's
You
graduation week, just so everybody know that Friday, so.
Then let's keep it on Monday. Who can't be here on Monday? Can we still have quorums?
we can do it on Monday.
May
I can be
22nd.
here Monday.
Monday
Be
the
there.
22nd.
Monday I should be okay.
You be there Monday? I can be there.
You need a pencil, I think, so you can
Fine.
erase now at this point, don't you?
You be there, Gary?
Yeah, I should.
Monday, May
Sick.
22nd, right?
Yes.
And what about the sign on the property?
We got,
But you have to make
The
it.
sign on the property, how does that get there?
The sign,
Saying that it's being,
once, the sign can be, if she makes application to the commission, the city commission, the sign can be posted as soon as she does that, run those advertisements concurrently for the commission meeting so that it can be heard as long as it's 15 days out, so whatever that date will be. The signs, John will take care of that, we'll send you a list of everything that you need to do the
Okay.
sign. Okay?
thank you very much.
Sure.
Okay.
Are we doing that?
And you have all their information to take care of.
Yes.
So, did we call all in favor yet?
no, call for vote.
Okay, so time for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much, I appreciate it.
Well,
Thank
we
you.
apologize for
Yes.
the mess up.
It
Yeah,
happened, but I was late to make it, so
Yeah.
thank you very much, I appreciate it.
sorry that happened. Okay, so the last item we have on the agenda today is the staff report on 129 East Kingston Springs Road.
Oh, yes. Now, this is the meeting.
Technology is a wonderful thing, it takes forever, so I was asked by the planning commission at your last meeting to investigate the circumstances of 115 East Kingston Springs Road. Actually, there are several addresses. The three parcels in question owned by Mr. McPherson, so he owns three parcels. One is adjacent to Kingston Springs Road, and the other two are behind it. And I'll put up a map in a few minutes that'll help you understand where the property lies. The applicant, sometime within the year of 2016, came before this body and expressed to you that he wished to do a somewhat blended commercial and residential development on 8.9 acres. And presented you a sketch plat, and there was a lot of discussion. Post those discussions, he secured a TDAC permit for grading. The purpose of the permit on its face was stated for commercial and residential development. That was the whole purpose of that. He submitted a split plan. At some point, the planning commission, based on the sketch plat, suggested to the applicant that a PUD would be appropriate for the development of this parcel, given the blended uses that he wanted to occur and its location on a major corridor within the town. The applicant did not wish to proceed and withdrew that discussion from the planning commission. After a lot of staff investigation, we have discovered that a number of documents were produced for this applicant at somewhat high expense by a surveyor and engineer for the development of this property. Those documents were not forwarded to this body. No questions, we'll just move forward. They were not forwarded. That's all I can say. They were never in your package, were never exposed to the
They were-
saw them.
But they've been.
They existed.
Pardon me?
They existed, we just never saw them. Okay.
The owner
Okay.
knew they existed.
I
Okay.
was not here, not aware of why they didn't come to you. I just know that they did not, because they did not appear in any records from the planning commission.
Okay.
However, after the owner applicant determined that he did not wish to return to the planning commission, A number of other grading operations continue to take place, and it was the subject of several inspections, and stop work orders, and a number of other things. In your packet, I disclosed 114 pages of documentation related to this property. So there was a lot of it. I'm not going to go through all of that tonight, because it's a moot point as far as the development of the property goes. So, from my perspective and what I intuited from all of you is, what can we do now? Is that a fair statement of what can be done with the property now to somewhat make it more aesthetically pleasing and to somewhat preserve its potential for use at a later date if someone so desires? Is that a fair statement of William?
Yes.
All right. Where we are now is there are 3 code violations at the city level on the property. They are: 1, open ground is not tolerated. You have to spread, level, and seed. Your own city code requires that. Building codes and property maintenance codes. So that's 3 separate regulating sections that require that. Secondarily, there is a stabilization for soil compaction that's required to preserve your NPDES permit at the state level, and I asked John to relay to you a couple of links to the TDAC site that are very useful for the Planning Commission. If you just type in a name or an address or a map and parcel, it pulls up everything related to that information. There are 2 sections. One is the permit section, the other is the enforcement section. So those are publicly available. Anybody can go look at those sites. There have been 2 inspections conducted by the state over the 2.5-year period the property has been under development, for lack of a better term. One of them had to do with the compaction of the property, and there's an engineering proctor standard of 95% that has to be done and furnished back to the state in order to preserve the permit for the NPDES. The second inspection was to see if the SWIP plan was completed as it was proposed. It was not. So those 2 things are kind of outstanding floating issues. So, having said that, I would recommend that the city, particularly in the codes section, because we're on a code arena rather than a construction arena, address a letter to the applicant noting the deficiencies of the SWIP, noting the deficiencies of the grading plan, noting the deficiencies of the aesthetics of the property that are required by property maintenance code, and asking to supply that information if it exists. If it does not, to acquire that information and supply it. Then I would suggest that the property be level graded to the degree it can to maintain the runoff slope if necessary, and then seeded with grass or gravel or something that would level the property. So that is my report briefly. And I did not. In your packet, I included all of the information that was supplied by the applicant that you did not receive in the past. I would also suggest that in situations like these, given your desire to have a little more control over mixed-use and blended-use developments, that we design as a staff and present to you a mixed PUD overlay. It is not a separate zoning. The zoning base remains the same. In this example, the property on the front is commercial and it is residential in the rear. So if a single developer wanted to combine all 3 of those lots and approach it from a commercial residential use, that can be done through an overlay district for a mixed-use PUD. Jennifer and I worked on a couple in Ashland City where Vantage Point sits and a couple of other ones, and they're somewhat successful. They have several benefits. They provide flexibility, but they also provide a measure of control over what's going to go there, the number of units, the density, the road layout. There are a number of things that you can address in that. But I would also suggest that in PUD district, that we look at other areas in the city that have similar circumstance and just apply that overlay to those parcels as well. And that would require coming back to you first with the zoning ordinance itself, the overlay, and then putting up a map and an aerial and having you determine what areas are appropriate for that type of use.
Do you think these boundaries you have here are accurate?
Those are the boundaries that are supplied by the state. Whether they're accurate or inaccurate, that is is what is on the parcel level. And I
Yeah.
think Mr. Cullen could probably give you some guidance on whether
I
or not
don't need
parcel
any
level
guidance from him.
layers are correct at state level.
Well, I'm just curious,
I think,
there's some things that don't make
Mr.
sense on that
Campbell,
map.
there are 3 parcels. As I look at the deeds, those deeds, as they're recorded, are hampered by utility easements, widening of roads, sidewalks, and a number of other things. So an existing deed of record that is more than 40 years old is probably not an accurate reflection of the measurement as it is today, because encumbrances like sidewalks, roads, utilities hamper the written description of the deed.
I appreciate you looking this up. I think what happened is that previous employee of the city, in his zealousness to get things developed, just told people to go do whatever. And he came before us wanting a zoning change. But by then he had already started bulldozing and cutting, and it's just awful.
Well, I have discovered 2 sets of plans. John provided those for the development of this property, commercial on the front and residential on the back.
Right.
The first plan contained 47 structures, somewhat unidentified. I'm assuming that the ones on the front were commercial and the ones in the back was kind of a sketch layout. That then morphed into reservation of the front adjacent to the corridor for commercial use with no proposed structures, and then 8 quad structures
Yeah, you
for
wanted
residential
apartments,
in the
yeah.
back, apartments.
Yeah, we saw
So,
that.
again, if you wish to have flexibility, keep in mind the higher the number goes in our zone, the denser the development that's allowed. So for parcels such as these, where you have context sensitivity at your border, and you may have need to expand in the future, or you may have need to install utilities, PUDs are really your best friend.
Well,
That's why we, of course, proposed a PUD, which
Exactly.
he
But
did not
rather
want.
than having someone just come in under the current zone and say, yeah, I'll agree to a PUD, and you have to start from scratch every single time, it's useful to design a mixed use, or you can do a commercial, or you can do a residential, and have some existing perimeter, so they have some context of what's going to be expected before they come in the door, rather than starting from scratch on every single
let's
project.
get that. Can you get with Jennifer and come back with the proper stuff at the next planning commission meeting so we can recommend it to the city?
What action do we need to take too, as far as addressing? I mean, is this something that we just did at the staff level, addressing the issues, of course, that you found here, as far as the?
For the current issues, there needs to be a letter drafted. That letter can come from the building official, he's certainly qualified to do that. It can come from the city manager, he's certainly qualified to do that. It can come from the city attorney, it's your pleasure, who writes the letter. In my experience, I have found that people tend to respond more rapidly to a letter from council than they do from anybody else, or they respond to a code violation more rapidly than any other form of communication. But the site, it will cure a number of flaws. It will cure the city flaws, but will also cure the Department of Environment Conservation flaws all in one step if it's properly done.
Well, I suspect this is going to require some of Jennifer's expertise, just knowing the man and our little bit of time with him. But it's just a horrible mess. It's not tolerable.
So the letter will cite the coding violations and what's required to bring him up to
Yes.
codes, and
goal-
to not pursue anything further without coming before us, correct?
The goal is to, one, advise the applicant that he's outside the regulatory frame. Two, to advise the applicant he can't proceed further without addressing the issues that are already there. And third, to give him some guidance as to how to resolve those issues.
We need to make a motion to handle that.
And you need to determine which staff member you want to assign that to and how you would like us to proceed. But given if you're amenable to the 3 of us working on it together, John and Jennifer and I, we can have that prepared and done and ready for your approval by the next meeting.
I'll make a motion to that effect.
I second it.
Okay, so that's about the input.
Well, we need to vote.
No,
Yeah,
this was.
I just want to get the motion right. I mean, so this is the motion.
Well, I thought that was a motion to the effect of dealing with the
Dealing
code
with the violations. Okay, all
allowing
right.
them to work together,
Good.
and a letter to be, I guess, issued by by the city attorney.
Okay, so it's that.
Okay.
All right,
Exactly.
Um,
Do you got that? Do you have that, John?
You got it? Okay.
Donna, did you second?
Yes.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay,
The creation, crafting of the overlay is not, doesn't require a motion or vote, that's just something you're directing staff to provide.
Okay.
So that doesn't require a motion.
all right.
I want to know where the Exxon sign is going to
I think that's the BP station.
be. I've heard
Oh,
that.
BP,
Okay, so
Fire Mart.
do we have anything else before we adjourn the meeting? We finished?
John, do you need anything else to do?
No? Okay. All right. So
We don't
motion
want
to
you to get
adjourn?
bored.
Yeah. I'm
Okay.
a widget.
All right, second? Okay.
Second.
Adjourned.